you all right, Eden? You weren't harmed in any way, were you? I'm glad. Did you enjoy swimming with the dolphins? Exhilarating, isn't it? And they're so much faster than we could ever swim. Well, here we are at the auxiliary compound. Hopefully, Tanus will fall for our distraction and attempt to intercept the sub, giving us time to get the security system at this location up and running. The last thing we need is another surprise visit. This location uses a solar power battery storage setup, much like our other facility, but we also have generator backup if needed. Yes, the computer system here is every bit as good as the other facilities. Unfortunately, I never intended to stay long at this location, so the living quarters leave a lot to be desired. It's the barest minimum, I'm afraid. If I'm being completely honest, about 2 steps above camping on the beach. Well, perhaps a little better than that, but not much. Come, I'll show you. Here it is. You see what I mean? Bare necessities indeed. I suppose the best course of action is to continue with our original plan. What is it? Eden, you can't let a small setback like this discourage you. I've been trading jabs, so to speak, with Tanus for centuries. Actually, the boxing reference isn't the closest to the truth. It's been more of a chess game. He makes a move, I counter, and we go back and forth across the board in a never-ending game of measure followed by countermeasure. Of course, it can be very discouraging at times. Before I met you, things were beginning to feel rather hopeless. Remember, my memory had been almost entirely erased. I was left with little more than a burning obsession to find the lost continent of Atlantis. For what purpose, I had no idea. I just felt like my very survival hinged on me finding it. But after so many years of failing, I had considered quitting on several occasions. What kept me going? A sense of duty, I suppose. I felt like I was Atlantis' last hope, and if I gave up, I was betraying my people and letting everyone down. So I kept pressing on, hoping to eventually find the way to fulfill my commitment. And then I finally got my big break. I found you. No, I mean it. I've made more progress since you came into my life than in the previous hundreds of years. You are a miracle, Eden, more than I could ever have imagined, and I know in my heart that with your help, we will finally put this puzzle together and rescue whoever is left down there. I know, that's the big question. Where is Tanus getting his information? Is there a corrupt member within the collective? Is one of the surviving Atlanteans in stasis able to communicate with Tanus? And are they the bad apple, so to speak? I agree. If we delay the rescue while we try to identify Tanus's accomplice, we risk losing any survivors, either to Tanus or to an undersea earthquake. The seismic activity has ramped up considerably in the last few years. Who knows how much time we have left, or, more accurately, how much time the Atlanteans have left. We will have to be much more cautious when it comes to Tanus, however. He's obviously up to something, and he has someone feeding him information. I'll admit, there has been a certain temptation to change tactics and instead seek to remove him as a threat. But, to be honest, I'm just not comfortable with that idea. I suppose it's not in my nature. If you were threatened, I wouldn't hesitate for a moment. But that's not the same thing. That would be a defensive move. Now that I've been able to remember the real reason for my being here and the nature of my original mission, I'm hoping that by reintroducing other Atlanteans into the modern world, Tanus will never achieve his goal of being the only remaining Atlantean on Earth, and all the knowledge and power that represents. You make a good point. Unfortunately, I have no idea whether the Atlanteans in stasis were genetically altered like I was, so as to be basically immortal. If they weren't, releasing them from stasis would effectively start their body clocks once again, and they would only have a normal lifespan. Eventually, it would come down to just the three of us again. Considering how obsessed Tanus has been with stopping me from completing my mission, I'm going to assume that he believes those in stasis were altered just like we were, and releasing them would effectively crush any hope he ever had of being the last survivor. Nothing would please me more than rescuing all the surviving Atlanteans, and as a result of doing so, destroying all of Tanus's plans. Talk about a win-win. In the meantime, we need to find a way to ensure that none of our undersea equipment could be used by Tanus to slip through the security perimeter at this location. As much as it would pain me to have to do so, I think we should adopt a policy of activating a self-destruct device on any equipment that gets out of our control. I'd rather lose a submarine than give Tanus another opportunity to stop us. I'm not entirely sure what he was after. He was determined to get into the lab. I assumed he was looking for the coin, but there's no way to be sure. He may have hoped he could steal the coin and destroy the lab so as to effectively put us out of business. Luckily, he failed on both counts, and I have you to thank. I have no doubt, had I been facing him alone, the outcome would have been much different and not for the better. I hope it made him very angry. Furious would be even better. Anger clouds your judgment, and it makes you do foolish things, so the more angry he becomes, the better our chances become. Oh, I agree. Us succeeding at rescuing the surviving Atlanteans would undoubtedly make Tanus livid, but I'm not about to let that stop me. You have a good point, though. We need to be prepared not only for Tanus trying his hardest to stop us from succeeding, but also from potentially trying to bring harm to the survivors if we do succeed in saving them. I highly doubt we'll be able to pull this off without any interference, especially since he appears to have an informant we weren't aware of until now. I truly have no idea who it could be, but he referred to them several times as he or him, so we know it's a male. Other than that, Tanus gave nothing away. Considering how much detail Tanus seems to be aware of, I have to assume a member of the collective is the informant, but I have no way of proving it. I'm afraid our position is less than ideal. We need the collective for instructions on how to make our rescue attempt, but we have to assume Tanus is privy to our conversations with them. I would prefer to maintain radio silence, as you put it, and I think we could do so while we get everything in place for activating the coin in the chasm we suspect is the Canyon of Souls. But we know little else beyond that point. What do we do after we get the coin sending out its high-frequency sound? And what if we're in the wrong spot? There's so much potential for error. Still, with Tanus bearing down on us, I think we need to press on quickly and hope we get it right. If we succeed, what will I do? If you had asked me that before we met, I would have said, I have no idea. Finding Atlantis has been my life's work for dozens of lifetimes. I don't know what else to do. But since you entered my life, I find myself thinking about what the future holds, about spending my life with you. It's exciting, and at the same time a bit scary. But then, I think it doesn't matter what we do, so long as we're together.